Clap.
Yeah. Yeah. Season 1.
Oh, trying to
Welcome back to Unsettling Conversations. And today I'm with TK, Mr. Masilo, and we'll be doing the first episode of Manhood. Right? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Good. So TK, I guess the first question that I have for you is how do you define manhood, or what is your understanding of manhood / masculinity?
You know, every time I hear that term, it's always been a loosely defined term because no one actually knows everyone has their own kind of definition of how the term manhood should be perceived. But I mean, I guess in the general sense, I would define it as certain behaviors or paradigms and lifestyle choices men are expected to make under the society that we live in. So we know the prehistoric definition of a man is someone is a provider, he's strong, he's tough. It's just a bit sad that in today's day and age, the idea of being strong and tough has somehow been converted or demoted to being abusive now.
Right.
So now strong is not what it used to be. It's for some reason our gender has relegated what strong should be. We're no longer protective. We are now manipulative, abusive. Essentially, we're weak. We just don't know how to admit it.
And I guess there's a big conversation or a sideline conversation that's happening alongside with the country trying to tackle and understand gender-based violence and its roots and where it's coming from. So I guess the question is why are so many people asking, would a man do that? Would a real man do that? Why are people asking that question? Is it because of what a man is expected to be and what man is behaving like at the moment?
Let me try to use this analogy. I heard this analogy years ago, and that analogy stuck with me forever. When you look at how we behave as separate genders, girls tend to play different games as a child that guys don't play.
Yeah.
So guys, we in the dust, we in the dirt. We're playing marbles. It's touches. It's running with Rubers. It's contact, rough games, and whatever else. We grew up doing what we need to do. Girls tend to play house.
Yeah.
And psychologically, when they start playing house, they start playing house for the rest of their lives. So in their mind, they're painting the idea of what a great family or household should look like.
Right.
They already start defining what a son, a boyfriend, a husband, a father should be, or how they should behave. And when both genders collide into marriage or relationships, suddenly they get this new revelation that, oh, look, this is not what I painted 10 years ago. This is not how the house looks. Yeah. You are out of line. And the funny part is, for 10, 20 years, 10, 20, 30 years, women have been rehearsing this game called house. And for us guys, when we step into this adult way of living, we've never played this game before. Especially in South Africa's issue which has a lot of motherly headed households, no fathers, no uncles, whatever, to be the figure. We don't know what it is to be a man, or what it is to be a father, or what it is to be a boyfriend even.
Is it lack of role models in that sense?
100%, yes.
Okay.
I know a lot of times we think if we just put the laws in place, that's gonna somehow define or help build the nation. But laws can't legislate the heart. Laws can't legislate conscience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moral value that only a family and a community can instill that laws can't.
Yeah.
So it's easy for a government to say, no, do not hit a woman. Yeah. But only a family can teach why you shouldn't hit a woman. Yeah. Only a family can teach, oh, this is how a woman should be perceived. And I know I can only speak, I guess, on behalf of the black culture or black race. A lot of cultures have this weird perception or a weird idea of how women should be perceived. And I had this conversation weirdly with a female a few months back. And it seems like, especially in light of this gender-based violence, we've kind of relegated women from being partners and helpers to being tools.
Right.
So you're there for me, and it's not I'm there for you.
Yeah.
Men don't speak like that. It's not a baby, I'm there for you through it all. It's I need you there for me. That's
so broken, TK. That's so broken. And with that being said, what do you think the relationship of or the association, I suppose, of a man and being in touch with emotions or being in touch with your emotions, how do you think those two things relate to each other? Do you think there's still a stigma that is attached to the fact that because you're a man, you shouldn't be dealing with emotions the way that you are?
Boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry, whatever the saying is, right? Do you think there's still a stigma in society, in whatever culture, that is driving and still kind of
for sure
stirring that view?
You know what's funny with what you just asked? You'll go to Twitter and you see girls will say something like, I want a man who's in touch with his emotions. And literally the next tweet would be, I can't believe my man cries so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want? Did you want me to be in touch with who I am, or did you want me to be tough? And now our gender, and I'm not putting any blame on females, but now our gender is confused. And it would be beautiful if every man was forced to go to like therapy for 3-4 years from like grade 10 to 12 before you step into this adulthood, because there's so many traumatic experiences that one goes through that you don't even notice. Oh, you actually shouldn't have gone through that. And that's why you think the way you do. Or that's why you treat women or your friendships or your parents the way, because there's some things you've experienced that you thought was normal. Until you end up in a relationship or whatever, and you share your story and it's awkward all of a sudden at the table. Like, what? That's not what. Why did that happen? I think we.
Speaking of normal, growing up in Moloto, there's always a gender-based violence, and obviously this is not what it was, because in the environment that you grow up in, it's not what it seems. Right? It's because it's been normalized by the community, by the environment that you're in. It's crazy to think that society ever got to a point where raising a hand in anger or hurting a woman, for that matter, is okay. How did society ever get to a point where we like, that's acceptable, that is okay? How are we in 2020 and we're having that conversation and saying, we're still having that conversation and saying it's not okay to do that? How did we ever get to that point?
I think we got very desensitized as an entire nation. When you see or hear something too much, it becomes normal. It's like an undealt with cut. Even though just because it heals physically doesn't mean the damage on the inside isn't done. So we think it's healed just because we see the scar. But the more you touch it,
the more it hurts.
And as long as it's undealt with, we're gonna keep dealing with it. But in our minds we think, I thought we put a law on to deal with this. I thought the cops were sorting this out. And as you keep seeing this,
but we're just putting a band-aid over the situation.
Exactly. We think, okay, give it time, we'll be okay. And ironically, in our country, in South Africa, we do this with all the big issues. Oh, there's corruption in government. Okay, the president will say we're gonna investigate. We put a plaster on, hoping next month something's gonna change.
And more often than not, it does not.
And it's like there's so many layers that we have in our country. Like we did the apartheid democracy thing. Okay, now it's democracy. We put a plaster on, but there's still so many things that haven't been dealt with. This gender-based violence thing, okay, the president will say, if you do this, we're going to jail. You've been saying that since democracy. Nothing has changed.
Speaking of healing, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he was talking about I think conversation led up to like healing and how we deal with things. And then I remember that 15 years ago, I went through a when I say situation in my life, in a relationship that I was in, that because I did not deal with that instance or that situation and deal with it to its full merit and understand and unpack and properly let it heal, I found that situation to come back and haunt me 15 years later. And I mean, in hindsight, it wasn't like a massive thing that happened. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I got into drugs or whatever the case was. It wasn't a massive thing. But because I didn't properly take the time to deal with that trauma, or I mean, I was in grade 8, to be fair, right? But because I didn't take time to deal with that trauma, I found that same trauma, as a grown-ass man, has come back to haunt me.
Yeah.
What do you think the value of people dealing and addressing their emotions is? What do you think? What do you think the value is in that, especially for us men?
I think when we start addressing them through forms like therapy, mentoring, and really understanding each other, you'd have a healthier society. And you know what's funny? Us men are so arrogant in our own thinking that we think we keep the country together. And it's if we look in hindsight, the women have been secretly just covering us. They've been doing things undercover so well that if you look at the essence of who we are, it's because of a mother, it's because of a sister, it's because a woman was around. That's why we have the freedom to do what we need to do. Or let me say privilege, because us men, we're so privileged that we don't acknowledge that. And the value in learning to deal with our issues, our demons, is when we start, how do I put it? The value in dealing with those issues is we start knowing how to handle our ladies, our relationships, our friendships, and our households, right?
And I guess linked to that, what do you think the way forward is for the country? And that seems like a massive question. But what do you think the way forward is for us as a gender to address gender-based violence, to address...
So you're asking if I was president, what would I do?
In not so many words. Yeah.
I think, and I think I said it earlier, but I think every male should be getting therapy from, I would say, maybe grade 9 up till the age of 20. Not to condition how a man should think, but to deal with traumatic things that we maybe don't think is traumatic. It's those small things that do the most
things
damage.
that we've just bended it over and just moved on.
Because we think, but it was a small pain. I'll get over it. And even though you think you've gotten over it, it takes one trigger for it to hit you and realize, flip. Maybe I haven't dealt with this. And I think maybe when men start going to therapy and start understanding things like it being okay to be yourself, or express yourself, or speak about how you feel. Little things like that, when we start dealing with that and traumatic experiences, we're going to see a healthier, more reliable group of men. And I don't want to say it's time to lose faith in the older set of men that have gone before us, but we have to look at the youth that's coming up now. The majority of South Africa has always been youth for the past, I think the last stats I've seen, since 1980 something, the majority of the country's always been youth. And if that's going to be the general trend, then that's where the focus should be. It's not just putting money in entrepreneurship and whatever else. All that stuff's great, but if the psyche is not right, you're still creating or condoning a society of abuse, of manipulation, of corruption. And a lot of times you think if the government needs to change so we can change. No, we need to change, and then the government will change. Who we are on the inside, once that is restored, then the reflection or the output will be different in every facet, in every field, whether it's personal in their homes, or whether it's corporate in the business, or whether it's governmental.
Sure. It's a lot.
It's heavy.
It's a lot. So I guess it comes down to individuality. You as a person, you as a man, you as TK need to want to affect change in your environment, in your family, in your friend circles, in your relationships. You need to want that, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, like you said earlier, most women know a rapist or an abuser, but no men know a rapist or an abuser. We need to start calling each other out. If you as a person, and like I said, this is far-reached, but you as a person are not calling out your friends on their behavior, and you know that it's wrong, and you know that it doesn't sit well with you. If you're not calling that out, you saying I'm okay with the situation. I'm okay with the way that you're behaving. As a matter of fact, do more of that. That's not going to affect any sort of change, right? So if I, as a person, want to change, it needs to come from me.
Yeah.
It's not you, TK, saying, hey, Aubrey, you need to change. Cool, I need to change, but I need to want that change.
I know we're wrapping this up,
Yeah.
but like with what you just said now, it made me think of something. We're so quick to jump on the big things like rape, abuse, or whatever. And I think it starts even with the little things that we find funny, especially us as men. So we'll sit in a group of men, and maybe the HNIC, the head nigga in charge, would say, you know, I was good with the woman. I was good in the words or whatever, and would laugh about it because we are looking up at this mentor guy. But even in the way or the things we say, especially around younger people, they start praising what we prioritize.
Yeah.
And when we start flipping the switch on that, saying no. Oh, my wife. I want to talk to you about how my wife trusts me, and make that a whole culture shift in conversation. That's going to change how a man should. I should want my wife to trust me. Yeah. She shouldn't want to ask me for my phone. Like, oh no, she feels at peace with me. I'm just throwing a random example like that. But maybe the priority should be on the conversations that are good or healthy or add value to the psyche of a teenager or a young adult who's aspiring to the next level in their life. Once we start doing that, people start praising what's right. Yeah. Instead of being the player.
It's a whole culture shift.
Exactly.
A whole culture shift. Yo, TK. Hey, I'm uncomfortable. But it's okay, you know? And thank you for joining us.
Hey man, it's been good.
It's been good. TK Masilo, ladies and gents. And yo, I am excited for what's to come in these conversations. And I hope that once again, these kind of trigger and trickle throughout into other groups of men, and you know, just get the conversation going. Just get you thinking about, oh, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. And we may have sat here for however long, and none of this makes sense to you. But even if you just take one thing away and go, okay, you know, we're not always going to make sense. I think we need to make a piece of that.
Yeah, but subscribe.
Subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. I'll be churning out more content, and I'm excited for a whole bunch of other gens are going to sit here and we're going to have these conversations no matter how uncomfortable. So until the next time, TK, peace out.